So I've been asked to share a founder story. So that's what you're going to get from me. And there we go. No slides for me today. So about 8 years ago, I was on the phone with a dear friend late night, talking about life and love and vision. And I randomly blurted out, someday I'm going to start a company called Beaming. I have no idea what it's going to be, but I love that word. It is so powerful. It is that contagious magnetic energy that what you put out in the world is what you get back. Now, little did I know when I said that this would be a pebble leading me to my life's purpose and what ultimately would be creating a place called Beaming. So let me take you back in time. As a little girl, I would come home from school to an empty home, probably like many of us, and left to entertain myself, which of course we didn't have cell phones, so you had to get very creative. I hit the tennis ball against the garage door, played soccer in the backyard by myself, and my favorite pastime was jumping rope. So much so that I was the state jump roping champ for Colorado in 3rd and 4th grade. If there is such a thing, I was that. What makes it actually more hilarious is that I can still do all the same tricks that I did as an 8-year-old as a grown woman, which makes it even more fun for party tricks and even more fun after that, after a few cocktails. So tonight, I did not bring a jump rope, but if someone did. My family was very healthy. We did not have ding-dongs and soda pop and Doritos like all the other kids, so no one wanted to come to my house after school because we had all the weird healthy food. And my grandfather, who's 93 years old, still does 1,000, I'm not kidding, 1,000 sit-ups and push-ups a day. And he refuses to take the elevator and climbs up 4 flights of stairs up and down in his apartment. And he jokes that he will probably die in the stairwell, and no one will ever find him, but at least he will die doing something that he loves, exercise. In high school, I was making smoothies long before Jamba Juice existed, and I don't even think the Vitamix had been invented yet. Not sure, but I don't think so. I was crazy about boys. I loved to bake, and so I was always the one baking for the football team. But even then, I was still trying to figure out how to make healthy taste great. So I was trying to figure out how to make a healthy chocolate chip cookie, which is a clue that you're eating one now. So we'll get back to that. So being healthy has been in my DNA since I can remember, which actually made it a bit ironic because my first job out of college was with Nestle. Now, Nestle wasn't as cool as it is today, buying Freshly and, Blue Bottle and all the other things. But I was left to sell some of the most unhealthy food on the planet. Country sausage gravy, chili and cheese sauce, my favorite corned beef hash. I was horrified, but obviously quite excited at 22 years old to have a job. So I made the most of it. But in order to make the most of it, I had to find something within Nestle that I could get excited about that was remotely healthy. So we had these Asian sauces, and they were going to discontinue them. So I would sell all the unhealthy food during the day, and I'd come home at night, and I'd play in the kitchen with these Asian sauces that were kind of healthy, and I would turn them into salad dressings and turn them into pasta salad recipes, and I created a cookbook. And I got the idea, well, if I take the cookbook and the Asian sauces to the largest salad bar chain at the time, it was Fresh Choice, and I sold them my healthy salad dressings with these Asian sauces, which actually prevented Nestle from having to discontinue them at the time. So, this entrepreneurial food spirit, has been in me trying to make healthy taste amazing, trying to create healthy out of the unhealthy. I left Nestle, I survived a year. I was living in the Bay Area at the time and did what everybody else did. So I went into software, went into, the oracles of the world in broad vision. I got to ride the high-tech boom, traveled the world, had a blast, had a great career educating about marketing on the internet. And then it was time for me to focus on our family, have more children. So my husband and I and our daughter at 4 years old, we moved to San Diego. We moved there with the idea we'd have more kids and we would slow me down. We were successful at having more kids, but we quickly realized I was not slow downable. You can't take the entrepreneur out of the entrepreneur. So I saw an opportunity during the crazy, crazy San Diego housing boom to start a high-end window coverings business and provide privacy to everyone's home. I did that for many years. It was very successful. I won a bunch of awards. But I knew that wasn't my ultimate calling. I knew deep down inside, and had since I was little, that I was supposed to do something that would change lives. I was supposed to make a big impact in the world. I just didn't know what it was going to be. So I decided to go on an entrepreneurial vision quest. I called it my Soulful MBA. I took a year off all of my entrepreneurial endeavors, and I just went inside. I took that time, that discomfort, to go inside, to listen, to see what showed up, what was next for me. While I was on this business monastery, if you call it, I went to New York to an entrepreneur event, and a woman by the name of Chris Carr spoke. She's a cancer survivor, author of Crazy Sexy Diet, and she talks about how she healed through food, how she healed her cancer through food. She's this unbelievable, vibrant, radiant, gorgeous woman. Her message is so powerful about the power of food as medicine. I was absolutely captivated by her. Her energy was magnetic. It was contagious. And I looked around the room. And as I looked around the room, I was like the energy was so high. It was so high vibe. And I looked at my friend. I said, my God, that woman is beaming. We want what she has. Once again, I did not understand that that was a pebble leading me to my life purpose that would create a place called Beaming. I came home from that event very inspired. Of course, read her book, Crazy Sexy Diet, and every other book I could get my hand on what it meant to be healthy and food as medicine. I started to realize that many of the things that I've been feeding myself and my family were in fact not healthy. So much of what we talked about today, right? Just because it says gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, all natural, whole grain does not mean it's good for you. As I took these things, and especially preservatives, artificial flavorings, all this stuff, you start turning a box around and you start looking at the shit that's in our food. It's frightening, right? And so I took these things out of our diet, and immediately my husband and I were feeling great. We were sleeping better. We were thinking better. Inflammation went down. My boys, who were quite young at the time, their behavior became better. They're less hyper. They're less aggro. And what happened that was most profound in all of this was with my daughter. She was 13. She had been on ADD medication for 3 years. And I realized that there are certain triggers that cause inflammation in the brain, especially if you have ADD or any kind of brain sensitivity. And those triggers are sugar, wheat, gluten, and dairy. So I thought, what if I take these out of her diet? I took them out of her diet, and within a couple days, she was able to focus better. She was able to think clearer. Her moods were better. She was able to retain information. And within a couple of weeks, she came off of her ADD medication. A couple months later, she was in honors classes. I get choked up thinking about it now because it was such an incredible moment for me where I realized I now had a responsibility to share this information with others. The question was how? I could write a book. I could create a blog. I don't like to write, so there wasn't a great use of my time and energy. But more importantly, part of the problem, I think, is that we're oversaturated with too much content. And half of the time it changes. One day coffee's good for you, the next day it's not. Well, it's good for you if it's bulletproof. Well, drink soy milk. No, don't drink soy milk. Have almond milk, but make sure there's no carcinogens because those cause cancer. So as we're saturated with this information, it's like we're paralyzed and we do what is normal. We don't do anything. So it became very clear to me that I was going to have to make the food for you. I was going to have to create an experience, just like I had in my home, that would help you feel how good you would feel when you eat good food. Now, I should note, I have no culinary background. I do love food. I do love wine. I went to wine school in Napa, but that was not going to help me here. I am quite savvy in the kitchen, but didn't have any formal training. I didn't have a nutrition degree, read a lot of books. Still wasn't going to help me. Never worked in a restaurant in my life, not even as a hostess. So I didn't have any of the qualifications to do this. But as any entrepreneur, you figure it out. So the question was, how am I going to start? So I decided, well, actually what was happening at the time is that juice cleansing was all the rave. And my girlfriends would party from Thursday till Sunday, and then they would juice fast from Monday to Wednesday. And so I thought, I am not a doctor, but I don't think this is good for you. So what if I do this different? What if I make food? Like, I actually feed you real food. What if I nourish you? It's not about starvation and deprivation, but I actually put real food in your body, and I make it taste amazing. So I grabbed one of the top holistic chefs and cleansing experts in the country who had read her book, and I said, come do this with me. The two of us got in the kitchen, and we created the first superfood cleanse. I launched this in San Diego. Now, it was 5 days. It was $495. It was not cheap. Thought maybe 20 people would sign up. 95 people signed up. Now, I had no employees. I had no kitchen. I had no equipment. And I had really no way to pull this off. But once again, as an entrepreneur knows, you do whatever it takes. Because now I got 95 people paying for this cleanse. I better figure out how to produce it. So I rented out the back of a cupcake kitchen, grabbed a couple of chefs who grabbed a couple of their friends. I grabbed all of my friends. We all got in the kitchen for 5 days and produced this cleanse, filling bottles, making smoothies, making soups, whatever it took. My children were involved. We had to label, and I'm not kidding when I say this, 2,500 bottles had to be labeled that week, front and back. And of course, there had to be a cute little sticker on top too. There was teas that had to be packed and vitamins that had to be packed. All of us came in together to do this, to carry out the vision. And for me, it was really about, can I help you feel so good in a short amount of time that you would want to continue the journey, that you would wake up to the power of food? That's exactly what happened. On the fourth day of this first cleanse in San Diego, I got the panic phone calls that said, I don't want to come off. I feel better than I felt my entire life. I look amazing. I want this all the time. Yay, the vision worked. That next year, I did 7 more cleanses. In 29 business days of offering this cleanse, we did $255,000 of sales with a 30% profit margin. I knew I was onto something. So the next point was, let's bring this to San Diego. Again, no idea what I was doing. No model to really create it from. But went to San Diego and thought, okay, location's gonna matter. How are we gonna do that? I found a spot that I thought was the perfect location for Beaming for the first one. It was in Del Mar. And unfortunately, there was 10 juice bars in it before that had all failed. But in my mind, it was the wrong concept. Perfect location, wrong concept. But someone had just bought out the last juice bar, so it wasn't for sale. So I spent a couple of months, looked around San Diego, tried to find the perfect location, and couldn't find anything. So I thought, well, I guess maybe I'll just start with a juice and food truck. I wasn't excited about that, but I had to start somewhere. And so one day, I'm standing across from the location that I want in Del Mar. I'm talking to a girlfriend, and I started to cry. And I was like, I don't want to start with a juice truck. It's supposed to be a place that you go. It's supposed to be a place in the community that you connect, that you're inspired, that you're educated. And it's supposed to be here. And my girlfriend said, then go get it. So I wiped the tears off my face, I walked across the street, and I walked into that juice bar one more time, and I asked for the owner. She happened to be standing, at the register, and I said, I know this is a bold question, but is there any chance you'd want to sell? She looked at me, her eyes got huge, her face literally went white, and she's like, did you just hear the conversation I had with my husband? I said, no. She said, come here. And she pulls me back in the back of the kitchen. And she says, I just called my husband a minute ago and told him we need to sell. Of course, I got pretty happy, big smile. I said, great, I'll buy it. How much? She said, $50,000. I said, awesome. Now, I should mention, I had no money. I was going through divorce, but nothing like a little pressure for an entrepreneur to figure it out. You say yes, you figure it out later. Now, the next day, the juice bar lady calls me and she says, it was really weird. Right after you left, 2 more people came in after you and offered me double what you did. They offered me $100,000. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. It's already sold. She said, because I know that you are supposed to have this location. I know you're going to do something amazing. Now, I don't take that moment lightly. That was a moment where passion is so powerful, it overrules greed. She felt that energy. She felt that passion. It was not entrepreneurial luck. It was when soulful intention meets divine intervention. And I knew this was supposed to happen. 4.5 years ago, I opened the first Beaming Cafe in Del Mar, California, in a random strip mall tucked behind McDonald's with no street signage. From the day that we opened, we had lines out the door. There were days that we were doing $10,000 of food out of a 25 square foot kitchen. The first year Beaming opened in Del Mar, we did $2.7 million in revenue out of 900 square feet. Almost unheard of. The only place remotely close to doing something like this was a juice bar in Manhattan. It got a lot of attention. People came from all over the country. They wanted to see what I had created. And from that, it led me the opportunity to raise capital, which actually happened through customers, where I could expand the vision. Because for me, the vision was so much bigger than Del Mar. And no offense, Del Mar, but nobody cares what happens in Del Mar. So I had to take it to somewhere that mattered. I had to come to a city that mattered, a city with a loud voice. And where else do you go? Los Angeles. People thought I was crazy. Obviously, Los Angeles is not an easy town. It's the most competitive, saturated market probably in the country for what I do, healthy food and juice and what have you. And so people thought I was crazy, including the investors. But you can't be an entrepreneur without having a little cray-cray in you. And you have to be willing to make the risk. And I knew we had to come here. 2 years after I opened Del Mar, we opened the Brentwood location. 3 weeks later, we opened Santa Monica. Don't recommend that plan. And like 2 or 3 months later, we opened West Hollywood. In the first year of being in Los Angeles, we won Best of LA in almost all online and print media. People would tell us Beaming is everywhere. And the truth is we were. We were physically everywhere. Every event that we could go to, my 2 people in marketing and I would go to workout classes multiple times a day. We would do surprise and delights. We would bring Beaming everywhere. We were in the community. We knew all the local neighborhood people. We were in the schools. We had so much passion. We had so much soul. People could feel it. And yes, the food at Beaming, for those of you who have not been, those of you who have been, it is pretty darn good, I will say. I'm quite proud of the foods that we've done, and that was certainly part of the attraction. But there was so much energy that went into what we had done. There are 7 locations now, as Kyle said. There's 4 in Los Angeles, 3 in San Diego. And I'm so proud of what we created. I'm so proud of the vision that inspired it from me. And it's been an incredible, incredible journey. And I realized I had been building Beaming my entire life. As a little girl, jump roping, making smoothies, trying to figure out how to make a chocolate chip cookie healthy, which, by the way, that is what you all were served. Is it took me 30 years to figure out how to make the best chocolate chip cookie on the planet, I think. I'll let you all decide. That also happens to be gluten-free and dairy-free and has 9 grams of protein and is low in sugar and what else? And has no flour. And I, it really, I mean, it's been such an incredible journey. And I really, for me, this is just the beginning of carrying out my passion, my purpose in really educating people how powerful food is, how to make healthy taste amazing, how to create transformational wellness experiences. And I'm doing that, still committed to Beaming, as well as new food endeavors that I'm doing now, and consulting for others. And it really is, for me, about inspiring the Beaming energy in all of us. Thank you.